So I've been avoiding this video, like actively avoiding it. Not because I didn't read the book, I did, I read it for a publication, but because the last time I talked about this book and fanfiction tropes on this channel, it absolutely nuked my brain cells. Honestly, I was a little bit done with the whole conversation, but I made a promise, and I always keep my promises. But Alchemised keeps sitting in my head. And if a book does that, not because I loved it, but because I just kept mentally poking it with a stick, that usually means I need to talk about it. So, let's get the big thing out the way up front. Alchemized is a best-selling novel that started life as a fan fiction. Harry Potter and the Handmaid's Tale. And I don't mean vibes, I mean structural DNA. You can feel it at the bones of this book. This is going to be spoiler-free, because well, I want to keep this spoiler-free because I know not everyone's read it. So, here we go, I suppose. And this is not like a big plot breakdown thing. I'm not here to shame anyone for liking it. If you love the book genuinely, I'm happy for you. This just did not work for me, and I want to break it down on a slightly different level. And before we go any further, my name is Dove James. If you like long-form, honest, slightly unhinged book conversations like this at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can subscribe, you can join my Patreon, you can leave a comment, become a channel membership, or even Substack or Ko-fi. If you want to buy me a coffee, Ko-fi's great, and keeps these videos happening. No pressure, just putting it out there early so I don't forget later, because brain squirrels. So let's talk about Alchemized. Here's the frustrating part. The concept was actually solid. Oppressed world, magic, war, romance, control, power, rebellion. On paper, this should have worked better for me. But the execution is bloated. Painfully bloated. This book is massive. And not in a wow, I'm immersed way, more in the why am I still here way. And I'm going to echo what I've seen in reviews and what multiple people I know have said. You could cut easily 500 pages from this book and lose absolutely nothing of value. Nothing. The story feels like filler stacked on filler, the same emotional beats, the same misery, the same setup, repeated over and over again. It reads less like a structured novel and more like an episodic upload schedule, which is, if you've ever read long-form fanfiction, it will feel very familiar. I've seen people say this book has deep world building. I disagree. What it has is world naming. You're given places, titles, systems, terminology, but none of it has scaffolding. Nothing feels lived in. The world mostly exists when the characters are actively looking at it. It's like being handed a pile of IKEA instructions with no diagram and being told you'll get there eventually. You're told what things are, but rarely why they matter or how they function beyond the immediate scene. And because of that, the world feels suffocating rather than immersive. The magic system is a great example. It's kind of all over the place and inconsistent. It exists almost entirely as a plot device, not as a system. It does what the story needs it to do in that moment and then quietly disappears until it's needed again. There's no eternal logic to latch onto with this, no sense of rules or consequences, which again is very fanfiction coded. So let's talk about the cast of characters. The side characters exist almost exclusively as plot devices. They're flat, interchangeable, and they're there to move pieces around the board. None of them really feel like people, they feel like functions. But the frustrating part for me was the main character imbalance. The female lead is shockingly, well, has shockingly little agency for a story that wants to position itself as this dark political and subversive thing. Things happen to her constantly, decisions are made around her. Her suffering is repeated, emphasized, lingered on, but rarely translates into meaningful action. Meanwhile, the male lead, for what he is actually compelling. Draco Malfoy. Let's be honest, he's Draco Malfoy with a whip. He has internal conflict, he has changes, he has texture, and the gap between how these two characters are written is noticeable. That it's distracting. And he's not particularly deep as a character. He's sexy Draco Malfoy, but yeah, the weird disconnect between these two characters is frustrating to read. It's like the book knows how to write one kind of complexity and then just doesn't apply it evenly. This is where the fanfiction DNA shows. There are long stretches of unnecessary explanation. Backstory dumps from minor characters that completely stop momentum. Scenes that exist solely to reinforce the mood we already understand, and then suddenly everything happens at once. All the action, all the big reveals, and all the big moments are crammed into 200 pages. The ending doesn't unfold, it sprints. It's like running to the finish line after 100 pages of narrative sailing. And it left me genuinely convinced this book desperately needed a much, much, much tighter edit. You can feel the lack of editing and editorial restraint with this. You can feel that no one sat down and said what actually needs to be here. Let's be honest what this book actually is. This is a romance novel. The war, and I use the word romance because I can't say torture porn in too many ways on this channel. The war is window dressing, the politics is set dressing, the world a backdrop. Everything exists to serve this romance, if you can call it that. And if that's your thing, great. But this book often pretends it's doing more than that. And the disconnect is part of the problem. When the stakes of the world feel as important as the relationship, the narrative starts to feel hollow. That's a good way to kind of put this. Now, I'm going to say this, probably controversial, but I don't think Alchemised is irredeemable, but I do think it's a cash in. The original fanfiction was wildly popular, and this reads like something rushed to market without the level of editing and polish a book of this scale desperately needs. It still feels like fanfiction.net. Semi-episodic, repetitive, heavy on misery, light on structure. If you love long, emotionally intense, and I'll use the word intense here, romance, and don't mind the bloat, you might enjoy this, but for me it was exhausting. And I think that's kind of the thing. I think this book could have been more bearable because with a more ruthless editor and a cleaner focus, this could have been something at least coherent. That's a good word, right? That's where it lies, and I'm going to be working on a video about the lack of editing in modern fiction. That this genuinely needs a heavy round of edits and polish. It feels unfinished. And that's where it kind of breaks for me. It feels completely unfinished. Now, if you've read Alchemised, I'm genuinely curious where you landed, especially if you loved it. I'm not here to dunk on anyone's enjoyment, but if you like this kind of honest long-form book talk, and you can subscribe, you can join this channel as a member or support me on Patreon, Substack, or Ko-fi. It all helps keep this channel going, especially when I'm talking about books that drain my soul a little. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.